I could have seen why Jessica trusted him, like getting in the car with him or whatever when she took. Yeah, because he like is a nice guy, and she would have trusted him.
What kind of stuff was he interested in?
He loved computers, video
Very
games.
smart.
He liked spending time with family and his girlfriend and all that.
Is he the kind of guy that could murder a little girl?
He's a smart. We never thought, like, it was shocking.
He was the kid that went around school, and like the kids who walked down the hall alone, he would walk with you. He was one of those that always talked to everybody, always said hi to everybody, knew everybody. He was so nice.
Most of us grew up with him. We went to WIT together. We went to Win Carl, and now we're here. And then we see this going on. We're like, where did this come from?
I guess, I don't know, the whole idea of being, you know, a forensic scientist, all that stuff, it comes with that morbid territory. And I wasn't faced by anything that was morbid that they could show me.
Westminster 911, what is the address of your emergency?
It's 10786 Moore Street.
10786 Moore Street?
Yeah.
Okay, what's going on there?
My daughter's missing. I guess she never made it to school this morning.
How old's your daughter?
She's 10.
Okay, what's your daughter's name?
Jessica Ridgeway.
And when did you last see her?
This morning when she left at 8:30.
Did she walk?
Yeah. And I checked her friend's house that she walked and they're not answering the door.
And you said that the school called, so they weren't?
And I work nights, so I slipped through the call.
Okay, sir, sorry about that. We've got several officers on the way over to help you out, okay?
Police were soon able to get in touch with Jeremy's father.
Hi, this is Molly at Westminster Police. Can I help you?
Hi, I need you to come to my house. My son wants to turn himself in for the Jessica Ridgeway murder.
Okay, what's the address?
10622 West 102nd Avenue.
And what's going on there?
Ma'am, you not hear me? He just confessed to killing her.
I know. I want you to tell me what's going on. Can you tell me exactly what he said?
But he did it, and he gave me details, and her remains are in my house.
Did you see them?
No.
Is he there with you?
Yes.
Is he cooperative?
Yes.
How old is your son?
17.
What is your son's name?
Austin Sigg.
Okay. Do you think that he's going to be cooperative with the officers?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you think that Austin would talk to me?
Will you talk to her? Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
Hello?
Is this Austin?
Yes, it is.
Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on right now, or how you're feeling, or how did this come about?
I don't exactly get why you're asking these questions. I murdered Jessica Ridgeway.
Okay.
I have proof that I did it. There is no other question. You just have to send a squad car, something down here, and I will answer all the questions that you want to ask, or anyone wants to ask of me as soon as you gotta get down here.
Can you tell me what part of the house that her remains are in?
Underneath the house in a crawl space.
Okay, did you know Jessica before this?
No, I did not.
I mean, do you have a criminal history of any sort?
The only other thing that I have done that before this was the Kettner Lake incident where the woman got attacked. That was me as well. I used zip ties to zip tie her hands and legs together, and I drove her around for probably a good 10-20 minutes. I asked her if she had a cell phone. I would lie to her. I would tell her that everything was going to be okay, and I sat there and I stared at her, and I just remember absolutely blankness in my head, having no thoughts, nothing. I guess, I don't know, the whole idea of being, you know, a forensic scientist, all that stuff, it comes with that morbid territory. And I wasn't faced by anything that was morbid that they could show me.
What were you planning on doing that day?
I had the intent of picking up any female that came across where I was.
So you were out, for a better word, hunting?
Yeah, that's the only word I can think of.
And did you know Jessica?
No.
Had you ever seen her before?
No, not at all. She was wrong place, wrong time. It was all random. It was.
You didn't stop the neighborhood or go over to that neighborhood and was looking for her?
Anytime that I would even see someone walking while I was out in one of those modes, my heart would just instantly start beating really fast, and I couldn't think straight.
Was there a thrill aspect to it?
I've been trying to figure that out for a while now.
October 5th, 2012, a seemingly ordinary Friday morning in Westminster, Colorado. 10-year-old Jessica Ridgeway, a vibrant young girl with her whole life ahead of her, set out on a short walk to meet a schoolmate, a routine they shared before heading to school together. Little did anyone know this innocent walk would take a horrifying turn, plunging a community into fear and grief. Jessica never made it to her friend's house, just 2 blocks away. As the hours ticked by and Jessica failed to arrive at school, panic began to set in. A frantic search ensued, involving family, friends, neighbors, and eventually, law enforcement. The initial hope of a simple misunderstanding slowly eroded, replaced by a gnawing fear that something terrible had happened. 5 agonizing days later, on October 10th, the worst fears were confirmed. Jessica's dismembered remains were discovered in an open space in Arvada, a neighboring city. The discovery sent shockwaves through the Denver area. The innocence of a quiet suburb was shattered, replaced by a chilling reality: a child had been brutally abducted and murdered. The investigation became the largest in Westminster police history, a desperate race against time to find the person responsible for this heinous crime. The community was on edge. Parents held their children tighter, and a sense of unease permeated the air. Who could commit such a monstrous act? Then, on October 19th, a crucial tip came in. Someone contacted authorities about a local 17-year-old named Austin Sigg, reporting his disturbing fascination with death. This information led the FBI to take a DNA sample from him. 4 days later, on October 23rd, the investigation took a dramatic turn. A 911 call crackled through the dispatch center. The voice on the other end was Mindy Sigg, Austin's mother. Her words were chilling. Her son wanted to turn himself in, and he had confessed to killing Jessica Ridgeway. When the dispatcher spoke directly to Austin Sigg, his confession was cold and direct. The details that emerged were horrifying. Austin Sigg admitted to grabbing Jessica as she walked past his Jeep, a girl he had never seen before. He forced her into his vehicle, tying her wrists and ankles with zip ties, falsely reassuring her that everything would be okay. He then took her to his mother's home just a mile away, where he strangled her and dismembered her body. Tragically, he later confessed to sexually assaulting her after initially denying it. The discovery of Jessica's remaining body parts in the crawl space of Sigg's mother's home confirmed the gruesome reality. Medical examiners determined the cause of death to be asphyxiation. The investigation revealed the depths of Sigg's disturbed mind, uncovering a history of dark fantasies and violent tendencies. His actions left a community shattered and searching for answers, grappling with the senseless loss of a young life. As the investigation delved deeper into Austin Sigg's background, a disturbing picture began to emerge. Friends and classmates recalled a significant change in his behavior in the year or two leading up to the murder. He became more distant, aggressive, and antisocial. He was reportedly bullied by other students. Sigg also harbored a dark fascination with death, and was even studying mortuary science at a community college. In a psychology class, his intense interest in a case study on serial killer Ted Bundy sent chills down the spine of a classmate who witnessed his unsettling reaction. Even more disturbingly, unsealed court documents revealed a long-hidden struggle. Sigg had reportedly become addicted to child pornography at the age of 12, and therapy had proven ineffective. law enforcement found disturbing media on his phone, depicting dismemberment, sexual bondage, and rape. Adding another layer of complexity, Sigg also confessed to a prior attempted kidnapping. In May 2012, just months before Jessica's murder, he attacked a jogger at a nearby lake, using homemade chloroform, concocted from a recipe found online, in a failed attempt to subdue her. Despite being 17 years old at the time of the crime, the severity and disturbing nature of his actions led prosecutors to pursue trying Sigg as an adult. Discussions about transferring the case to juvenile court were considered, but the potential for a significantly reduced punishment in the juvenile system ultimately led to the decision to try him in adult court. Because of his age, he was not eligible for the death penalty. On October 1, 2013, just days before his murder trial was set to begin, Austin Sigg pleaded guilty to 15 charges, including first-degree murder and sexual assault against Jessica Ridgeway, as well as charges related to the attempted kidnapping. He made this decision against the advice of his own attorney. The prosecution argued that Sigg derived pleasure from pain and dismemberment, meticulously planning his horrific acts. His defense attorneys pointed to unaddressed mental health issues as contributing factors. On November 18, 2013, Austin Sigg was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 40 years. While the sentence brought a sense of closure to the legal proceedings, the profound loss and the horrific details of the crime left an indelible scar on the community. The abduction and murder of Jessica Ridgeway served as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of children, and sparked widespread discussions about child safety and self-defense. Yet, amidst the tragedy, the community sought to honor Jessica's memory in positive ways. A park was named after her, and initiatives were launched to encourage acts of kindness in her name, ensuring that her legacy would be one of light rather than darkness. The case of Jessica Ridgeway is a chilling tale of innocence lost, and the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. It highlights the crucial role of community vigilance, the complexities of the criminal justice system when dealing with juvenile offenders, and the enduring power of a community to find hope and healing in the face of unimaginable tragedy.
October 5th, 2012, started like any other Friday in Westminster, Colorado. But that routine, kids heading off to school, it was shattered when 10-year-old Jessica Ridgeway just vanished.
Yeah, on her walk, just a short walk to Witt Elementary. And the concern, it's spread through the community almost immediately. It was palpable.
So an Amber Alert went out pretty quickly, though.
Oh, yeah, swiftly.
Yeah.
And huge searches started up. Neighbors, police, everyone hoping, right?
Of course.
For this deep dive, we've looked at quite a few sources: People.com, KRDO, CBS News, FirstCoastNews.com, Wikipedia too, a Reddit thread, and an interesting blog post about a specific Colorado law.
Okay.
And these sources, taken together, they paint this really detailed and, unfortunately, very tragic picture.
So our mission here is basically to walk through these sources with you, the listener, to understand what happened, who was responsible, and, well, the aftermath of it all.
Exactly. The key events, the person, the consequences.
Okay, let's start right at the beginning. Jessica's routine. That morning, she disappeared.
Right. So she usually walked about a mile, maybe a bit less, to school. The plan was often to meet friends at a park nearby.
A common thing for kids that age?
Totally normal. But that Friday, she didn't show up at the park. Didn't make it to school either.
And the school contacted her mom?
They did. Around 10 a.m., they left a voicemail. But here's a really heartbreaking detail. Her mom had worked a night shift.
Oh, no. So she was asleep.
Yeah, she was asleep and didn't actually get that voicemail until later that afternoon.
Which means there was a delay in realizing she was actually missing.
A significant delay, unfortunately. When she finally got the message, realized Jessica wasn't home, she called 911 straight away.
And that's when the official Amber Alert went out.
That's when it went out. And these huge searches kicked off, collecting DNA too, like hundreds of samples from people living nearby.
Just hoping for any kind of lead.
Any lead at all. Then, just 2 days after she vanished, they found her backpack and glasses.
Oh, that must have been just awful.
And the backpack, it was urine-soaked. One source suggested this might have been, a deliberate, grim sign that she was already gone. Really disturbing.
Horrible. And then
Less than a week after she disappeared, the absolute worst news. Her dismembered remains, they were found in black garbage bags.
dismembered. Oh my God.
In a field in Arvada, which is about, what, 9 miles or so from her home?
9 miles. So this wasn't close. This changed everything, didn't it?
Completely. The focus shifted instantly. The FBI got involved. They started developing a behavioral profile.
Trying to figure out who could do something like this.
Exactly. Based on the crime scene, the victim, trying to narrow down the type of person. The search wasn't just for a missing girl anymore. It was a hunt for a killer.
And how did they find him? Was it the DNA?
Well, the DNA became critical, but the initial break, the huge break, came from a 911 call. A really, really chilling one.
When was this?
October 23rd. So about 2.5 weeks after Jessica went missing. The call was from a woman named Mindy Sigg. She was the mother of a 17-year-old boy, Austin Sigg.
His mother called 911. What did she say?
According to the reports, she told the dispatcher her son wanted to turn himself in for Jessica's murder.
He wanted to confess. Through his mom?
She said he told her he did it, gave her details, said Jessica's remains were in their house.
In their house. Oh my God.
And then Austin himself got on the phone.
He talked to the dispatcher.
Yeah. And his words were just blunt. Reportedly something like, I don't exactly get why you're asking me these questions. I murdered Jessica Ridgeway.
Just like that?
Just like that. And added, I have proof that I did it.
Proof. What did he mean?
Well, he also admitted to attacking a jogger previously, mentioned having knives in his room, owning guns. And he said he'd surrender peacefully.
Wow. So he basically handed himself over on that call.
Essentially, yes. Identified himself, confessed, gave them crucial information. It was extraordinary in a horrifying way.
So after that call, he confessed fully to the police.
He did. And the details that came out from that confession, documented in our sources, they are just stomach-churning.
Okay, let's go through it. What did he say happened?
He admitted grabbing Jessica just as she walked past his Jeep. Said he'd never even seen her before that moment.
Just a random, horrific opportunity.
Exactly. He pulled her into the back seat, used zip ties on her wrists and ankles.
Zip ties.
And then he told her, apparently, everything was going to be okay. Just pure deception.
Where did he take her?
To his mother's house, which was only about a mile from where he abducted her and also about a mile from Jessica's own home. So incredibly close.
And that's where?
That's where he strangled her. He said he tried using zip ties first, but then used his hands.
Oh, God.
And then he dismembered her body. Some of it happened in a bathtub at his mother's house.
In the house where his mother lived.
Yes. And while he initially denied it, he did later admit to sexually assaulting Jessica as well.
This is just beyond comprehension. And the rest of her remains, you said his mom mentioned remains in the house on the 911 call.
That's right. They were found in a crawl space inside the house, confirming what he'd said.
And her torso had been found earlier, right? In the park.
Yes. That was found about 5 days after she disappeared in garbage bags in that open space park in Arvada. The autopsy confirmed asphyxiation as the cause of death.
And there's something else. Something about her hair. I saw that mentioned in the Reddit discussion.
Yes, a really disturbing detail. At some point, he cut off all her hair. Her remains showed her hair was very short, unevenly cut.
Just why? The cruelty is staggering.
It truly is. Now, about that DNA evidence you asked about earlier.
Right, the samples they collected from the neighborhood sweep.
Exactly. Remember that they took hundreds. Well, they had taken a sample from Sigg during that sweep, before his mother's call.
Before he was even a suspect.
Correct. And that DNA turned out to be a match to evidence found on Jessica's remains and on a water bottle linked to the crime scene.
Wow. So they had him linked even before the confession, technically.
Technically, yes, the evidence was there. Yeah. It just hadn't been processed or connected yet when the call came in. But it became absolutely critical proof.
And that DNA also linked him to the other attack, the jogger.
It did, the attack at Kettner Lake. He'd confessed to that on the 911 call too, remember?
Right.
Investigators also testified his DNA was on Jessica's clothes. Though it's noted no semen was found, and he denied raping or torturing her, despite admitting the sexual assault later.
It's all just
That's
sickening. Right. What about Sigg himself? What did the sources say about his background, his behavior before this?
Well, classmates who talked after his arrest mentioned a change in him over the past year. Said he'd become more emotional and argumentative.
And he had that interest in forensics, right?
A very strong interest. Oddly strong, perhaps. He actually decided to skip his senior year of high school.
To do what?
To go study mortuary sciences at Arapahoe Community College. He'd already dropped out after 11th grade and gotten his GED.
Mortuary science?
Wow. And before that, he attended a place called Warren Tech, focusing on forensic science. He even did well in a competition, placed second in the CSI division at some leadership conference.
So he was smart, clearly engaged with the subject matter.
Seemingly. A classmate shared a really unsettling memory. Sigg apparently got really into a case study on Ted Bundy.
Bundy? Oh, great.
Yeah. And the classmate recalled Sigg actually laughing when they discussed Bundy's, complete lack of empathy.
Laughing? That's a huge red flag right there.
A massive one. It suggests maybe a real detachment, a fascination with the darkest parts of humanity.
And the court documents revealed even more, didn't they?
They did. Unsealed documents showed he apparently developed an addiction to child pornography when he was just 12.
12?
Yeah. And therapy attempts were, according to the documents, not effective. His phone, when searched, had horrific stuff on it. Human dismemberment, sexual bondage, rape.
So it wasn't just an interest in forensics, it was escalating into something much darker.
It seemed so. The documents suggested his addiction led him to seek out more and more violent material.
Was anyone trying to help him? Properly, I mean.
Well, there were allegations in those same documents that maybe his parents' reaction wasn't helpful, that they might have reacted with screaming and shaming instead of getting him proper intensive therapy.
That's tragic in itself, if true.
And his younger brother apparently told investigators Sigg once said his schooling was teaching him how to commit murder and get away with it.
He said that to his brother. Chilling.
And there's another bizarre, disturbing anecdote. A friend of Sigg's mother apparently joked about his interest in decomposition.
Joked about it.
And supposedly even helped him practice restraining someone with zip ties.
Helped him practice. I have no words for that, if that's true.
It's deeply unsettling, isn't it? And remember that earlier attack on the jogger at Kettner Lake in May 2012?
Yeah, the one he confessed to.
The police connected that to Jessica's abduction. The jogger was attacked with a rag smelling of chemicals, but she fought back and escaped.
Thank God she did.
Her description of the attacker resembled Sigg. And later, he pleaded guilty to that attempted kidnapping. Admitted he used homemade chloroform.
Homemade chloroform? How?
He said he used a recipe he found online.
Found instructions online to make chloroform. That's terrifyingly easy.
It really is. It highlights the dangers of readily available information like that.
So putting it all together, this is a portrait of a very, very disturbed young man. The warning signs seem, in retrospect, alarmingly clear.
They certainly do. Which brings us to the legal proceedings.
Right. He confessed. They had DNA. What were the charges?
In late October 2012, he was charged as an adult. 17 counts initially, I think. 11 of those were directly for Jessica's.
Charged as an adult, even though he was 17.
Yes. And later, when they found the child sex abuse material on his devices, they added charges for child sexual exploitation, too.
Did it go to trial?
It almost did. But in October 2013, just before the trial was supposed to start, he pleaded guilty.
To everything.
To 15 counts, covering both Jessica's murder and the attack on the jogger. Apparently, this was against his own lawyer's advice.
And the sentence?
Life in prison. With the possibility of parole, technically, after 40 years.
Only 40 years. For all that.
Well, the judge wasn't done. The judge added more sentences, running consecutively one after the other, which basically means parole is realistically impossible.
Okay, that makes more sense. He couldn't get the death penalty, though.
No, because he was 17 when he committed the murder.
Mm-hmm.
Under U.S. law at the time, that made him ineligible.
Did his defense try to argue anything at sentencing?
They focused on his mental health issues, arguing they weren't properly addressed, tried to paint a picture of a troubled kid who needed help, not just punishment.
But the prosecution?
They pushed back hard, argued that the planning involved, the pleasure he seemed to derive from pain and dismemberment, it showed he knew exactly what he was doing, that he had the executive function to plan it all out.
And Jessica's family, were they there?
Yes. Her grandmother spoke, very powerfully. She called Sigg a monster.
I can only imagine her pain. Now, you mentioned a specific Colorado law earlier, from that blog post source.
Right. House Bill 1271. It's about reverse transfer. It allows juveniles who are charged and tried as adults to petition the court to send their case back to the juvenile system.
So his lawyers wanted to use that to get him out of adult court.
They intended to, yes. The argument would likely have been that at 17, he wasn't mature enough to grasp the full weight of his actions, Maybe it could be rehabilitated in the juvenile system.
But did it have any chance of succeeding, given the crime?
Extremely unlikely. The blog post laid out the factors the court considers for reverse transfer. The seriousness and violence of the crime. Huge factors here. Community interest, his age, maturity, prior history, mental health, likelihood of rehab in the juvenile system, use of a weapon.
Yeah, almost all those factors would weigh heavily against him in this case.
Exactly. The sheer brutality and nature of the crime made it almost certain he would remain in the adult system, if, hypothetically, he had been transferred back.
What would the sentence have been?
Significantly less. As an aggravated juvenile offender, the maximum would have been maybe unto 5 years in youth corrections. A vastly different outcome.
5 years versus effectively life without parole. It shows how seriously the system viewed his actions, despite his age.
Absolutely. The severity just couldn't be overlooked.
So after the legal proceedings, what was the impact on Westminster, on the community? It must have been immense.
Oh, profound. Our sources talk about a real shift. Parents, understandably, holding their kids tighter, people looking out for each other more, just a heightened awareness of danger, you know?
Understandable. Did anything positive come out of such a tragedy? Any memorials?
Yes. Thankfully, there were efforts to honor Jessica's memory. That park, the one she was walking towards to meet her friends.
Yeah.
It was renamed the Jessica Ridgeway Memorial Park. They incorporated butterflies and the purple, her favorite color, into the design, trying to capture her, quote, playful spirit.
That's lovely. A place for remembrance.
Exactly. The park's website even says it's used now for fun, recreation, meditation, and remembering Jessica, a living memorial.
That's good to hear. Anything else?
There's also the Jessica Ridgeway Legacy. It's an organization that funds cheerleading camp scholarships for young girls.
Oh, was she a cheerleader?
She loved cheerleading, yeah. So it keeps that spirit alive. And her story also inspired something called the Lassie Project.
What's that?
It's a child safety tracking app. Uses phone GPS to map out a child's usual routes, sends alerts if they deviate.
Wow. And Jessica's mother, Sarah, is involved with that.
She is. She works with them now, sees it as a way to maybe help prevent other families going through what she did, turning grief into action.
That's incredibly strong of her. The investigation itself must have been huge, too.
Massive. Involved 75 different law enforcement agencies. Think about that coordination.
75 agencies. Incredible.
As a recognition of that effort, they actually minted a commemorative coin and hand-delivered it to all 1,800 officers and personnel who worked on the case.
Acknowledging their work. That's important.
Definitely. And there's one more tradition, an annual menorah lighting ceremony held at Jessica's Park. It honors her memory and encourages good deeds in the community.
So finding light in the darkness.
Trying to. The case also definitely raised parental awareness about safety.
I bet. People started teaching their kids self-defense.
Yeah, experts offer classes, simple rules about strangers, what to do if someone approaches you, basic physical tactics, if, God forbid, someone grabs them, more vigilance.
So looking back at everything we've covered from the sources, it's just a grim, senseless crime. The loss of Jessica is devastating.
Absolutely. And the details about Sigg's background, it is disturbing. It paints this picture of a deeply troubled person with these awful interests and behaviors that seem to have escalated without effective intervention.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder about missed opportunities.
It really does, but then you see the community's response, Jessica's legacy.
Right. Amidst the horror, there is that glimmer of the park, the cheer camp, the safety app.
They're powerful testaments, aren't they? They really are, showing that the community wanted to remember her life, her spirit, not just the awful way she died. Finding light, like you said.
It leaves you thinking, though, that final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. How can we, as communities, get better at spotting those warning signs, at supporting individuals who might be struggling with these dark urges before tragedy strikes?
And what's our collective role in keeping kids safe? Vigilance, awareness. It's ongoing, isn't it?
It has to be. Jessica Ridgeway's memory is this powerful, enduring reminder of how precious life is and why that collective awareness, that action, is so vital.